This program contains rare films of World War II originally shot in color, found during a 2-year worldwide search. Much of it has never been seen on television before. These films are presented now in high definition. Some images are graphic in nature, and viewer discretion is advised.
In the Pacific, in mortal combat against a fanatic foe, the Kamikaze Corps, the Japanese pilots who rode the divine wind to certain suicide and possible devastation of our ship.
Grant us a common faith that man shall know bread and peace, that he shall know justice and righteousness, freedom and security, an equal opportunity and an equal chance to do his best, not only in our own lands, but throughout the world.
The greatest generation would imply, to my mind, people who really were involved and knew what was at stake. And I think the majority of the greatest generation didn't have a notion of what was at stake. When I had this young boy, a boy from Mississippi, a farm boy, he was in a foxhole next to me. And out of nowhere, through the mist, came a bullet that hit him right in the head. And there was a kid who didn't know anything. He'd never been away from the farm in Mississippi. He didn't know where he was, what he did, why he was there. Was he a part of the greatest generation? Yes. There was nothing great about him. Just a young boy who lost his life. I arrived in New York in May of 1939. I
was an American lover from the word go. The first thing I do is change my name from Hans Warner to Jack Warner. Already, I feel more like an American.
It is May 1939, and 19-year-old immigrant Jack Warner is setting out on a drive across the country to Hollywood, California, where he hopes to break into the movie business. His home country of Austria has embraced Nazi extremism. Now he's fled to America to begin a new life.
2 homers in a row. Effort.
It's a wonderful trip. Everyone here is so kind and generous. No one even asks me about what is happening in Europe, even after they hear my accent. I suppose they don't want to be impolite. They don't understand how lucky they are not having to look over their shoulder. I suppose if it doesn't happen in your own backyard, you don't know much about it. I can't blame them. Europe seems so far away. I remember when I was in Austria. It was just after Hitler took over. All of his anti-Jewish laws were put into effect immediately. We were no longer considered citizens. Within a week, my father was fired from his job. Our bank account was frozen. We had no one to turn to. And then one morning, I woke up early. And outside my window, this man was singing a few lines from the Horst Wessel-Lied, which was the Nazi party anthem. It went like this. When Jewish blood flows from our knives,
everything will be well. There were people already walking on the street. Nobody said anything. That was the moment when I decided, that's enough. I'm out of here. And that very evening
I left. I knew what could happen to Jewish people like myself. I knew what was already happening, so I escaped through the Alps and I headed to America because I knew it wasn't going to stop.
Stunned by the sudden thrust of the Nazi drive into the North countries, troops rallied around loyal officers to defend their homeland. This scene was repeated in hundreds of Norwegian villages, even as the enemy moved in for the kill.
We are shocked by the almost incredible eyewitness stories that come to us. Stories of what is happening at this moment to the civilian population of Norway.
To my friend and colleague, Mr. Winston Churchill.
To sign the most humiliating armistice in the history of France. as wave after wave of bombers pounded the city into a raging inferno. Goering waited for his finest hour, that slowly died amid the flaming wreckage and the undaunted courage of the savage hair-pounding of the war. Bracing themselves against Hitler's savage bombing attacks, the seemingly
Again, those were explosions overhead. Earlier this evening, we heard a number of bombs go sliding and slithering across the fall several blocks away.
I speak to you for the first time as Prime Minister in a solemn hour for the life of our country, of our empire, of our allies, and above all, of the cause of freedom.
Hundreds died as 1,500 fires burned historic landmarks into blackened shells of debris.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall never surrender.
Hitler unleashed the power of his Luftwaffe in an effort to conquer Britain from the air. Military statistics proved British victory. Englishmen looked in vain for squadrons of Nazi aircraft. Britain's skies were scarred by brutal combat.
We can stand up to him. All Europe may be freed. But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States, including all that we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss.
With a third of Europe now under Nazi control, America still sits on the sidelines. Many believe the war to be Europe's problem. Recalling the horrors of World War I, the majority of Americans don't want to get involved in another European war. President Franklin Roosevelt attempts to convince them otherwise.
There are many among us who in the past closed their eyes to events abroad because they believed that what was taking place in Europe was none of our business. That we could maintain our physical safety by retiring within our continental boundaries. Obviously, a defense policy based on that is merely to invite future attack. To those who would not admit the possibility of the approaching storm, the past weeks have meant the shattering of many illusions.
On September 16, 1940, Roosevelt signs the Selective Training and Service Act, the first peacetime draft in American history. All able-bodied men between 21 and 30 must register for military service. Though Congress approves the bill, it is careful to call it a national defense measure. The draftees may only be sent to defend American-held territories.